What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast, and we have one heck of a show for you tonight. And but let's take care of some business real quick. Deck Talk Podcast is powered by Firefly Outdoor Marine. Check out their brand new Nighthawk, the ultimate marine night light that cuts through the dark, so you can boat with confidence after sunset. Check them out at fireflyoutdoormarine.com and make sure you use discount code DECKTALK10 and go enjoy their new Nighthawk. But guys, we're going to get this one going. And man, we're so excited. But guys, if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
Now, Pappy J, it's always good to be back. Hey, guys, real quick, just a reminder if you'll go to our website there at Deck Talk Podcast or click to my email or Collins, we're still looking for candidates for Salute the Valor. Just let us know, email us, and that way we can honor our vets, our men and women in uniform, and give them a shout out and let's praise them and love on them for a minute. But hey, we thank y'all for all that you've done.
So guys, I'm go ahead, Pat.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I want to introduce our special guest, and guys, if you have not watched the MLF Heavy Hitters here, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, you sure missed something else. I mean, it was something to watch, and we actually have the winner of the Kubota Heavy Hitters, Dave Lefebre. Man, Dave, thank you for coming on, brother.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet you.
absolutely. It's our honor to have you on the podcast. But I just want to jump right into it. I'm excited to kind of pick your brain and listen to you talk and tell us about how everything went. But first of all, I just want to say congratulations on the massive Kubota Heavy Hitters win at there Orange Lake, and I'm sure you was really happy to bring that trophy home as well. But if you came from behind in the final period, when you came from behind in the final period there and won the championship and doubled up with a 100K Berkley Big Bass 9-3, which is outstanding. Could you walk us through the final stretch, what was going through your mind when the clock was ticking down?
Um, well, you guys, if you watched it, it was about an hour and 58 minutes of ticking down that we had to
Right.
deal with. But for me, it's been ticking down like that for 6 years. So that's literally how I've been feeling. So when I caught that big one. There was some drama that didn't make the live truck. They didn't show, but um, I'm guessing 5 to 10 minutes before that, I had lost the bite that I was waiting for all day. I kept saying
Yeah.
we're in the area for a big one. We just kept our head down and kept casting all day, and finally got that bite. And it got down in the hydrilla, and I ended up losing it. One of those big ones that just pulls and pulls, and it's like, oh man. So it was kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster ride right before that. I turned my boat to the left and kind of trolled into this little open space, and I was just getting ready to I lost that one right where I was turning around,
Right.
and that was where you could see Mark Davis in front of me. He was about 100 yards in front of me, and I turned around, and that just happened, and I was like, why? And then I saw a 5 pounder just swimming on the surface, and I had heard just lately that Todd Faircloth had the same thing happen on live, where he just saw a 4 pounder swimming and threw in front of it and caught it. But I thought that was weird. I hadn't seen anything like that before, like a blind, half blind, dying big bass. And I threw in front of that thing with the chatterbait, and it ate it. And I set the hook and just whiffed on it, and it disappeared. So right there, I was thinking, 8+ pounds plus a 5, 13 to 15 pounds. Who knows? It could have been a
Right.
15 pounder, the other one. And so I was kind of devastated. And then, 5 minutes later is when I hooked that giant. And then of course we had that big long that I had I was no doubt at all that wasn't enough to win either category at the time with 2 hours to go, knowing how good the bite's been at the end of the day. So
Right.
really, I wasn't like saying, "Oh, day, hurry up and end day, get this day over." I was still thinking, I need one more fish,
Yeah.
and realistically, I think I probably should have had three fish. I was thinking probably three fish would do it, but that was, that's a huge fish, biggest one I've ever caught in competition. But at the same time, for there, it was one of the smaller ones. There was 11 and a couple of tens weighed in during the week. So uh, that's the only good thing I can say is it didn't kill me for an hour and 58 minutes. I think when it got down to 30, 40 was when it's like, oh my gosh, this can happen,
It could happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because and that's one thing. Like, I mean, we fish local tournaments and stuff like that, but we've never fished a tournament to where we actually knew what was going on and what other people were catching, like how the Bass Pro Tour and stuff like that, to where, um, and I think that the score tracker like that, it could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing, because I've had tournaments to where, like, I've thought that in my mind, like, let's just say that I knew that I needed 18 pounds and I got my 18 pounds, and then I just kind of coasted the rest of the day. And then I came in and I got beat by 20 pounds. The person brought in a 20-pound sack. And um, so, does having that score tracker, did that help you to kind of be able to keep going and then kind of ease up, or does that kind of make that pressure intense?
That's, in my view, some of my old time buddies would tell you, I've been fighting for us to be able to see the competition so that we're not, everybody always says we're competing against the fish. And I always hated that. Even when I was
Right.
a rookie way back then, I'm like, we need to compete against each other. And that has made it happen. I literally was saying that in 2004, we need this so I don't think there's an advantage. I can't even remember what it feels like to not know what's going on, and unless you make me revisit memory lane. Like, I lost the BFL All-American. I finished second back a long time ago, but back then it was, the pin would have been the pinnacle of my career. Right, you
Right.
just getting ready to turn pro, and you look at the names who have won the All-American, but because we didn't have score tracker and know what was going on, I didn't have a prayer to win that one. I came from behind, and I felt like I needed another 5-pounder, and I'm sight fishing, passing two to 2.5 pounders for hours that I could have easily caught looking for a 5 or a 4.
Right.
And then the guy opened the door and I had no idea. The guy that was running away with it, and I'm going on 10 looking for a giant, throwing on these 2-pounders, and they're all nose down. I mean, I saw 20 or 30 of them, and I ended up winning second. So
Yeah.
it's stuff like that that made me think, man, if we could just see what the competition's doing and be able to react in real time, that would be bass fishing in my eyes. So I wouldn't have it any other way. I love that format.
Yeah, because, well, and I totally agree with you. I think that I would like fishing a tournament like that, unless you have a red crest, like when Edwin Evers come out and just demolished everybody in that one little pocket for 45 minutes, where he done nothing but cast after cast. I think then that kind of kicks you in the teeth and being like, because he put a whooping on everybody on that red crest.
Yeah, I remember that one. But at the same time, I mean, you can mentally prepare for that, because the guy who finished second in that one thought he was going to win, and he would
Right.
have probably died if if it was a normal tournament. I don't know. I can't see a downside to it. I think it's the best thing.
So with the win of the heavy hitters, has that rejuvenated you to kind of get you pumped back up, and like excited to keep on going, and or what does the future look like for you here in the next couple of years?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make me want to keep going. You know, I'm still committed to, to going out. If I would have lost, or whatever, it didn't matter to me. I'm ready for the next chapter. I'm kind of excited about what we're doing. And like I said, it's been a 6-year battle for me. And I don't know, what your listeners do, what they do, or who your clientele is, or what you guys' beliefs are. But I'm a major believer and follower of Jesus, man. And
Heck yeah.
he's been putting me through. It's hard to talk about, but he's been putting me through something, and I didn't understand it until that happened. It was like I tried to try not to cry during this thing because I didn't even want to do that on live TV at the
You're
Oh,
good,
MLF.
you
man.
good? You good, brother? You good?
He's so good, and I didn't have a I didn't really have an answer. Like I felt like I had a good story, and my seminars basically, I stepped away from fishing how-to seminars and stuff just because it was just so much, schedule. You can book yourself crazy. And about 10 years ago, I kind of stepped away from that just to spend more time at home and raising a family and stuff. And plus, I lived in Erie, PA, which is far away from everything. And I kind of stepped away from it. But lately, I've been doing a lot, just talking about faith, family, fishing, and how God plays into everything. And I didn't have those seminars were kind of like you'd get to the end, and it really didn't have like a close. Of course God was good, and I knew what I was doing. I was excited about what was going to happen, but this was just the icing on the cake. Like it was, the final. I don't really know how to explain it, but 6 years of just why God, and acting all stubborn. Like I obviously was supposed to get out a while ago, I think, and just didn't have the guts to do it. Didn't, because it's all I've known. I've done it for so
Right.
long, and I feel like I
Hmm.
needed a kick in the pants. And I thought it would be a little more violent and wouldn't be a great one, like the way that it happened. Like, because I would have been good either way. But um, it's just awesome to know the stories, and I'll probably be posting them on my TikTok. Just the little things that happened that I didn't understand when it was going down, but now that he allowed me to go through the motions. I mean, he would have thrown the. I feel like I had to be there only just to hold the rod, throw the hook out there, and just freaking put the fish in the boat so he didn't have to like throw him out of the water on my front deck and make a big scene. That's how I feel. Like I had nothing to do with that. And if you watch that last 2 hours and just see, these best fishermen in the world, you saw that top 10, man. That was
Yeah.
freaking stacked. And for those guys to just not catch them, and the way the weather came in, I mean, we had wind. They didn't really talk. I don't know if they talked about it too much. On the ride home, I was kind of watching, trying to catch up on that day, watching the live, but I didn't see it all. But we had wind that almost blew your hat off there in the last period after I caught that big fish, and everybody was praying for wind. And we had storms. You could pan around with the camera, and you could see a storm here, one over there, one over there.
Right.
Fish should have bit. They should have bit.
Yeah.
That was just the end little miracle that happened, that they did not bite, and and Jake losing that one. I'd heard as soon as I got in the we rode back and got in the truck and we're driving back. My cameraman was like, "Man, I wanted to tell you, Lawrence just lost a freaking giant, like 5 minutes to go," and just stuff like that, and the stories. And I can't explain it other than to say I had nothing to do with that, and the glory
Mhm.
100% his.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
uh, and that's one thing, I mean, that there's only so much that man can do, but the good Lord, I mean, he can, if you give it to him, I mean, he can take care of you, and he will. Uh, and that's one thing that I enjoy. One thing that I enjoy about doing this media is being able to talk to people and being able to use our platform to kind of, to share God's love and to let people know that they're not alone, that, God loves them, and that, and if you just put your faith and trust in Him, that He can pull you through whatever that your struggles or whatever that you're going through. And I appreciate you for telling us that little story. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's that's something to be said right there. I mean, especially when you got when you're the tool, you know, you're out there and I mean, you said it. You really don't have an answer to what had unfolded before you, but you was the tool, and that just goes to show you that you know God is Almighty. I mean, He is in control of everything. You know, no matter what, the weather, the wind, anything, all the elements, and even in our life as us, you know, I mean, he's in full control of all of that, you know, and obviously you've had an incredible career spanning from the FLW, the Bassmaster Elite Series, and now the MFL and the Bass Pro Tour. If there was one tournament or one moment besides the heavy hitter, what stands out the most memorable or defining in your journey?
Um, I mean, monetarily, I had a big $250,000 win back in 10 or '09, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which was, a huge moment. And that was the Texas Toyota Classic. So that was huge, and that was a last minute fish catch, and everything was crazy. And at the time, that was just crazy. But so monetarily, that one sticks out. But as far as um, what I needed, like the first one that popped into my mind when you asked me that is in your state, actually. What the heck? Where was that? It was early on in my career. It might have been my second year, could have been my first year, but I think it was my second year winning at Old Hickory.
Mm-hmm.
oh, my home lake.
Is it really?
Yeah, I
What was the
grew
name
up
of
on
that
Old
town?
Hickory.
Gatlinburg or something north of
Hmm.
there, something. But that if I don't win that, I'm not here today. I'm not literally. I
Right.
was out of money. We had just. I can't even remember if I even signed with Kellogg's yet at the time, but it was a pivotal time right there. And like when you jump into a sport like this, it's a money funnel. I mean, I wasn't born, people think I was born rich or whatever. Man, we lived in a trailer and sold everything we had to buy a little truck camper and a used 2000 and something Skeeter, and we hit the road with a 1988 Ford truck. You know what I mean? So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
it was a struggle. I had finished third in a tournament right off the bat. I had no money to pay the rest of the entry fees because I was fishing the Bassmasters and FLW the same year, and there was only a handful of us doing it. That's because I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, which way I wanted to go. So I'm like, well, let's fish them both. Yeehaw! There's only 16 tournaments, 5 grand a piece. But I had no money to do it, and I remember, finishing third at the Atchafalaya Basin, and got me 20 grand. And can you believe the payouts were better back then? It's crazy. But I got third, and it was able to pay like the next batch of entry fees, and then won that one. When I ran out of money, it's like boom. You win one, and all my heroes were in the top 10, Hackney and some other big flippers, and we were all flipping over there at that lake, and to come out on top of that one, that's the one that just got me to where I'm at. Because if that doesn't happen, I tried it and I failed, and I would be doing something, go back to playing drums in a band somewhere. So
Right. Yeah. John Pate said, checking in, stay focused, Dave. The Lord has everything going on. You're in the right place in your life. Continue and be successful. So,
awesome.
but I do want to with heavy hitters is, what is your mindset and your approach on targeting bigger fish?
My brain is hardwired that way, so that's a good thing. Like that's my natural instinct.
Right.
That's why I've, not really hit it off too well with the Bass Pro Tour. So it was always about getting 5 bites, and I was the guy that had four a lot of times, and it was like one
Right.
more. I just need. So it's always been a stressful career for me because it's always like, and I lose a lot of fish, so more than most people. So it'd be more like 7 bites to catch five, or 10 bites sometimes. So
Right.
um, the I don't think you can. In Florida's a little bit different. In Tennessee or Pennsylvania, like we kind of got normal. We have normal fish kind of. I mean, I know you got some strains in your lakes, but
Right.
the down there it's a little bit different. If you get an area where you're getting bites, I've noticed over the years that you're going to catch 12 incher, a 15 incher, two more 12 inchers, a couple of 9 inchers and babies, and then a 2 pounder, 3 pounder, back to 12 inchers, and then boom,
Right.
there's your 10
Yeah.
pounder. So that's the mindset I had down there was, based on past history and mistakes I've made in the past, was just finding a group of fish, finding a place that the
Right.
post-spawn fish, whether they're fry garters or whatever they are, that are heading out to their summer deal, and just getting around a bunch of fish. And if I could find, that group and put my head down and just pound it out. So the
Right.
way it worked out was just picture perfect. I had a terrible practice, but got just enough bites in the same type of area, two areas that I had no scatterbrained thoughts. I felt like
Right.
this is the best area. If you look at it on a map and on paper and you realize the water was as low as it was, I'm sure you guys heard about that.
Yeah.
The situation, it was the possibility for the perfect storm in that spot. Like it was the best spot on the lake, and it turned out that I was able to improve it. But if I
Yeah.
wouldn't have won, I was definitely letting that spot down, because on a map, and if you know anything about fish behavior, that's where most of the fish in the lake were going to pass through there.
Right. Now, how, like in Florida, like I'll go down to Florida a couple times a year, just to fish and film content and stuff. And what from, like, with your travels and stuff of fishing, like Tennessee and stuff, like you can go down, let's just say any TVA body of water, and you can kind of pick out as you're going down the river and see, like, all right, there's going to be fish right here, there's going to be fish right there. But in Florida, I mean, it looks like every time, like everywhere you can, even if you put your boat in, you're like, man, I should be able to catch fish right here. Everything looks like it's going to hold a 10 pounder in it. So, how do you go about breaking down to where maybe you find that 30, 50 yard stretch that's holding fish?
This tournament, um, I did not know the water was low till the day before practice. Like I had no
Right.
idea. I wasn't doing the typical Bass Pro Tour balls to the wall, pro thing.
Yeah.
I had neglected. I was looking forward to it mainly to see my buddies that I didn't get to say bye to at stage 7, the cameramen, the crew, boat officials, stuff like that. So I started getting excited about it just a couple days before we left, and my plan was to, if you look at that lake on the south end of the lake, and of course I've watched videos. We fished the team series there. Alton Jones and Brett Chapman were my partners in the team series just in 24, I think it was. So I was able to see the lake. I talked about my buddy Glenn Brown, who lived in Ocala, and I stayed at his house for the last 25 years before he passed away a while back. But we used to fish that lake in Loch Lusa. So I was kind of familiar with that area a little bit, which helps. But for me, it was about looking at that south end of the lake and being like, there's a huge bay, the biggest bay on the lake. It's like a lake in itself. And that's where we put in at Hagee Berry. And then
Right.
adjacent to that is the end of the lake. Like in Florida, like a lot of times, unless it's a round lake, the ends of the lake are always the best. Like even the lakes around here, the ends are always the best. You can always leave the middle out, you know? So
Right.
that south end had these the rivers and stuff. I don't even know if they come in or dump out, but whatever. There was a lot of that, and then there was backwaters, and the grass just went the whole way across. It was definitely not the main lake basin type thing.
Right.
So all the fish, it's post spawn. There's going to be fry garters. They're just in the low water. They're coming out of all of that, all the backwaters, the rivers, and that bay. So, and literally, like the rivers are here, the bay is here, the backwaters are here, and there's a big point. It's a pretty oval lake, but there's just this one big point right there. So everything was right there, and I literally, and I cannot thank Dakota Lithium enough. They sent me new batteries, put them in my boat. That's all I needed was just good. I wanted, the ghost trolling motor with that freaking prop they got in that hydrilla with those batteries. I knew I was going to be able to fish dark to dark in practice. I didn't even start my motor. I was looking a needle in a haystack. So I
Right.
started a little bit in that bay, and then I went over a little bit into those creeks before it got super matted, and I worked my way, in both days of practice, I kind of worked my way back to that middle area, and I went from inside the stuff to the little bit deeper stuff that had more of an algae bloom, because if you got back in there, it was crystal clear. And truthfully, I didn't know what the deal was going to be. I just know that I had 4 or 5 4.5 pound bites on day one of practice. And when I looked back and looked at my dots, they were kind of, I'd be like zigzagging like this, and I'd have a bite right here. And then 3 hours later, I'd be zigzagging around here and have a bite right here. And then pretty soon it formed a line. You know what I mean?
Right.
On day two, I tried to expand, and I didn't go back through that stuff, and was on the outsides and going shallower and stuff like that. And I hit the edge of another spot that was similar and got one bite. I caught like a 2 pounder, and that was it. But you look at all those lines, and they all lined up, and it turns out those two spots kind of touched. They kind of, they were kind of like just a straight stretch like this, opening in the grass, little depression.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was like that. They weren't quite parallel, but there was like a strip between them that kind of did this, and that turned out to be like a good area too during the tournament that I found. But it was all just that. I'd say it was like a mile stretch, and there was two 200-yard stretches in that mile that were the places where I, um, focused on for the whole tournament. Just stayed in there and ground it out and learned. I love tournaments like that. I always have. Like every one I've won, it's like you spend so much time in a little tiny place that you can name the weeds. Like every single one of them. There might be 7,000 lily pads in there, and you just know the one.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was
Yeah.
about needle in a haystack looking, and just getting a few bites, and not being all scatterbrained. Should I run to the north end? Should I run over there? You know?
Yeah. That is
That makes it
awesome.
a lot easier on for the simple. And I'm sure. I mean, I know the stress is there. Of, you know, am I going to find them? Will they bite or this that? But now we're in bringing it down to one area is a whole lot easier than running one point over here and then going over there and just doing a lot of running and gunning versus doing that right there. So that's pretty smart, man. Making you little tick marks everywhere you got a bite. That right there just shows your experience and that's a good thing, and that's a little nugget for anybody out there. You starting to get into tournament fishing or whatever, that'd be something good for these young guys that want to learn. I definitely would put that in my hip pocket. But being from Erie, Pennsylvania, which is nothing like some of these southern fisheries we have, has your northern background influenced the way you approach fishing places like Florida or the big western reservoirs?
Um, we're you can tell me if I answer that correctly or not, but where I live is it's so diverse, it's ridiculous. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember Chickamauga, Tennessee. I mean, it is one of my favorite between Texas, Tennessee, and South Carolina. That area, that's my favorite place in the country to fish.
Yeah.
And I've always done good on those Tennessee River impoundments from Pickwick all the way up through there.
Right.
Fort Loudon was one of my favorites, and Tellico, and of course Chickamauga. So we have places like when I go there, we don't have Tennessee River Valley Authority like lakes,
Yeah.
Right.
but
Right.
but we have like rivers and impoundments that kind of dump into rivers and things and just sheer river fishing and we have swamps like stuff that looks like Lake Fork,
Mm-hmm.
just dead trees everywhere. But I've always gravitated toward, like, I always hated like crystal clear water. I hate rocks, you know what I mean? Just blow all the rocks out every lake in the country. I'll be happy. Make it all mud and weeds. And I've always liked that, like what we did in Ocala, and I know nobody had me on their radar for that tournament, except for my local buddies, just that, you know, being in just like you said earlier, massive flat of grass. I mean, this grass, I'm telling you, it went the entire way across where I was. I was, 300 or 400 yards out off of a bank, and then it went a mile across, and it was grass the entire way. So it just so happens that's what I like. When I won
Mm-hmm.
tournaments locally before I went pro, um, it was usually those type of events where you found that just little needle in a haystack. And what's cool about that is you invest your time. Like that's a good spot on that lake for the rest of history, unless something weird happens.
Mm-hmm.
And like around here, you might never even figure out like why that spot is good. I have some places in the grass that I fished 20 years ago that I can pull up to and just know I'm gonna get bites, and you can't figure it
Mm-hmm.
out. Even when I was so anxious when um, side scan first came out, to go over some of that stuff and see if I could find something
Oh
like
yeah.
winter before the
Yeah.
grass got up. There's nothing there that I can figure out. So sometimes it's literally just finding something. You don't know what it is. Maybe it's clay, three or rock or something 3 inches under the mud, or it's just the way the current hits it, or what happens. But yeah, living in Erie, people think that's crazy. Like, but this place is loaded with fish. And growing up, I knew I wanted to be a pro fisherman when I was 10 years old. So I wasn't going out fishing for fun ever. Even when I was a little kid, I was always thinking, man, how can I better myself? I'd go to places with rocks and clear water, just
Right.
to know how to do it, even though I hated it. We got a place called Kinzu. If anybody's from this area, they're just the crap hole. But it's pretty decent. I better not say that. But it's clear water and rocks and stuff. But I'd force myself to do that kind of stuff. So I think it was the best training ground possible for somebody like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Now,
I answered
now,
that right, I don't know.
now,
No,
now
you.
we say the same thing about Chickamauga and Nickajack, that it's just crap. We just tell people to just go somewhere
Yeah,
else, just so we
right,
don't have all the traffic.
right.
So, uh, but you had told us and stuff that you uh, like if you didn't make it into professional fisherman, and that you would probably be playing the drum somewhere. And so I want to ask you, like, is the when you were in the band and stuff like that and playing, is that discipline to being able to kind of do better playing the drums and get better at that and being able to keep on progressing, is that the same kind of discipline, or did it kind of roll over into the fishing?
No, you're reaching on that one.
Okay, I was just asking. I
No,
was just asking.
no.
So
I mean the discipline. That's the way I am. I'm not special in
yeah,
that way. A lot of people, you just want to be the best that you can be. And
yeah,
the biggest thing I tell people when you want to be the best, I was into when I was little, young, I was into arm wrestling. Like, I'm going to do this for a living. I got into 9-ball shooting pool, and I was like, I'm going to do this for a living, you know? So I was trying to figure out when I was younger, before fishing, trying to figure out what it was going to be, but I knew it was going to be something odd.
Right.
And fishing's definitely odd. But um, the, the, the thing I would say to people is, you know, I always wanted to be around people that were better than me. And I see like a lot of youngsters today, they can't handle that, you know. And if you can't handle that, you're
Right.
not going to be Jacob Wheeler. You know, you got to be around people. I remember when Jake came up, I don't want to embarrass him or nothing, because in my mind, he's the best there ever was and will be. But, you know, he was wanting to be around us, you know, when I was still kind of in my prime when he showed up. And that's what you got to be. You got to be hungry, a sponge, shut up, listen, you know, to the guys that have done it and been there, that can beat you over and over. I know it gets tiring. You know, I played
Right.
with one of the best 9-ball players on the planet, you know, and I just loved getting beat. And I think that's the mentality you need to make it to the next level. And the music, that's the only commonality, I think, is, you know, I just wanted to be the best. I was around the players, you know, like Alan Jackson's guitar players and drummers, and I remember, you know, we opened for a lot of big names that now they're big names now, but they weren't then. Sarah Evans, Brad Paisley, you know, got to hang out on buses and see these guys that were monsters. You know, they're the ones that make you want to quit. It's like,
Right.
I don't, but that's the kind of people you need to be around, and you want to be better than them to, that's why I went to the Bass Pro Tour. You know, I wasn't going to, you know, what an opportunity it would have been to stay at Bassmaster. Everyone's leaving, you know.
Right.
My hat's off to the guys that stayed, you know, and started kicking butts and winning classics, you know. So I just again, I'm not a hunt. I think your questions are cool. They're different. So I hope I'm doing them justice. Here I
Well,
am in the right.
Oh yeah,
well,
absolutely.
how we figured, like with the podcast, Dave, is we just kind of want it to be kind of just like if we're sitting. That's the reason why we call it deck talk. Like we're on the deck of the boat, out fishing with whoever. We we go down rabbit holes. We're not afraid to chase that rabbit. Sometimes, again, we tell people that we chase it a little too far at times, but we just enjoy just the conversation, talking fishing, because if we can get a little piece of advice or something to where somebody that's listening or watching or that's listened to it on Spotify or Apple, if they can go and take a little piece of advice, like I remember that they had Dave on and he was talking about this, and that maybe that would go help them go catch a fish or two, and that's how we look at it. We enjoy talking to everybody, and so we want to be kind of have those little questions that are kind of off the wall, to where we know that y'all do a lot of stuff with media that it can kind of be redundant and just repetitive questions and stuff. So we try to make at least have fun with it. So
Yeah.
Well, I got a question, and this is probably one of my favorite questions of all time, and you know, because I like taking out of all the professional anglers that we get to talk to and associate with, you know, I like to take a nugget from everybody, and I'll put it in my own little tackle box upstairs, and you know, and try it out, and you know, because I obviously want to be a better fisherman, but for our listeners and across and all the weekend warriors, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone that's trying to get better at catching bigger bass consistently?
Bigger bass. It's hard to ignore like the forward facing sonar thing. So if that's going to be the future, that's all you got to focus. You know, that's where your focus needs to be. It's like way back when the Alabama rig came out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, I'm almost thinking now. You're talking about big fish, so it's might be a little bit different, but I think staying ahead of the curve and not getting stuck in your old ways, like with this new, like I don't care anymore, so I don't know what it's called, but the big sea urchin thing that's taken
Right.
over right now. That's the biggest thing since the Alabama rig, and or a Cinco. That's maybe just staying on top of what's new and not being stubborn. Like if you're gonna compete, if that's what you're talking about, like compete,
Yeah,
Right.
you need big fish to
yeah,
compete.
compete, and I guess just it don't have to be big bass. Just consistently catching fish and in a competing environment.
Yeah, you got to stay with the times and stay ahead of it. Get on the train. Don't wait for Wheeler and Connell to do it for 4 years before you do. Like I did.
Hmm.
Um, you got to jump on it, stay on it, because the learning process is just coming, and you got to get on it and go to the next thing and just keep running with it. The
Right.
Alabama rig, I refused to do it. I thought it was bad for the sport. I spoke up, and I was instrumental in getting that thing out of tournaments. But I
Right.
didn't do it. So if you look at my stats, I think it was, no, I don't even remember, but 2014, 15, 16, like in that era, you'll see it. I mean, I could not compete, and I was having the best days of my life on Beaver Lake, Kentucky Lake, wherever we went. Like if it was a normal tournament, and there was no Alabama rig, I'm smoking them.
Right.
Hmm.
I was getting buried. So that's the key. And right now, it is all active target. If you're not doing it, you have to be, unless they get rid of it. I'm not gonna say I want it banned because it's not my future. So if they keep doing that, that's all you need to focus on. If you'd asked me
Hmm.
that 10 years ago, I would have said get you a big giant jig and gotten my Denny Brower accent and go up the river.
Go up there.
Black and blue jig. So it saddens me not to answer your question that way. Like
Yeah.
just find your niche. Because there's the best frog guy. You could do it that way. And back in the
Hmm.
day, you could be a Denny Brower, or and I think maybe a few years into after I started was when you could still do that. You could try to be an expert in one or two things, but back then it was even starting to go toward, the guys who were versatile were the ones.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's always going to be
Well,
Yeah.
versatility, but it's active target. 100% get you those jig head minnows. Figure out what you do. Get a little tackle box like this big. Make sure it's a Plano and it's waterproof. That's it, man.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, and we we have seen, like, anytime that somebody brings up active target, usually the chat goes crazy. But but you had brought up Wheeler and stuff like that, um, and and Jake Lawrence. I mean, both of them are phenomenal with the forward facing sonar. But people that has never been on a boat that's had the forward facing sonar, I think they kind of have a bad, I don't, not I guess maybe a bad image of what it is, because all they see on TV is just the back of whoever's doing the forward facing sonar. And I understand that's not fun watching, but do you think that, I mean, well, what my opinion is, the only reason why that they're so good is because they have thousands of hours looking at that screen, knowing that I can throw at this fish, and as soon as that bait comes by, that they're going to jump on it. Do you think that that's what the kids need? I mean, you kind of answered it, I guess, with what you just said, but or do you think, because on Chickamauga and stuff, like, we're starting to see like the fish transition back to shallow water, um, to where like how we grew up beating the banks and doing all the docks and downfalls and stuff like that. That it seems like the fish are more like going back to that. Do you
I'm
think
anxious
that
to,
they?
yeah, I'm anxious to jump in on that. So
Okay,
I feel like um, uh, if you brought true, like that's what I believe that that's probably true. You know what I mean? Because that's what we see over
right,
the years. Things, so people get off, quit beating the banks, and then all of a sudden, maybe you have an opportunity to go up there and catch them. So I
right,
do not doubt that for a second, because it's been around for what, 4 years now, whatever.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
So the fish are definitely going to get accustomed to it. But this isn't the Alabama rig where that's gonna end. So you can put,
right,
I'm confident that this is a fact. You can put, say you have a 20-person night tournament or whatever you guys do down there. You have
right.
those weekend tournaments. You get 30 boats, whatever. Put Drew Gill in there. He's gonna kill you all.
He will wear you out. Yep.
Yeah, and they're doing it. They're doing it in a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet of water. You know what I
Right.
mean? So even though they're up there, there's certain guys that like it kind of burns my butt when I hear people, tearing these guys down. Like anybody can do that. If anybody could do it, we'd all be competing. We
Yeah.
cannot compete against them. Like we can't. There's certain days,
Nah.
like Drew was down there at Ocala, and with that water low, I'm shocked that he didn't find anything. But the key with it is just doing it all day. Why is Dean Rojas the frog man? Because
Yeah.
Dean Rojas never put the frog down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ish Monroe, those guys
Yeah.
that dominated in their techniques, Denny, flipping, you know, you you're gonna find the fish if you know what you're looking for and know what happens when you find it. That's why I can flip for 2 days straight and not get a bite and still cannot wait for that thing to drop through the next mat, because you love it. And those guys that love it are fortunate. They
Yeah.
love that video game type feel. So I'm not taking nothing away from them. That work
Mm-mm.
ethic is
Phenomenal. Yeah.
there because I feel like I'm good with it. Like I can,
Yeah.
you guys should watch me. I could go out here in my front yard on Lake Erie and just pound like 11-pound walleyes. And I think I know what I'm doing, but trust me, when you get down there and you start, I cannot do it for 17 hours a day from dark to dark. Yet
Mm-mm.
those guys can because they're like me flipping. I can just relate to how they do it. I can't. I get sidetracked, I see a willow tree. It's like, squirrel, woo! I'm out there
Yeah.
for like 30 minutes. Yeah, I found nothing.
Well,
So,
I tell you, and one of my favorite feelings, I mean, you could be out there and having the worst bite, and you can go out and flipping some pads or flipping in some grass, and then, well, as soon as it goes past and that goes into the water, and you feel that thump, that is, I mean, to me, is the best feeling in the world. And then hearing that braid just as soon as you hooks it, that oh man, I tell you, that is the money to me. So I definitely understand about the flipping aspect of things. So
Oh yeah.
what what is your favorite rod and reel setup for flipping?
um, it depends, since that's kind of like what I love to do. It kind of
Hmm.
depends on exactly what I'm doing. Um,
Right.
I'm not a, I try to use braid the least amount I can, just because, I know nobody else is using fluoro and that big stuff. So I like 20-pound fluorocarbon, and we, me and a couple other guys literally started Gamma. If you ever heard of that line company,
Yeah.
it was so long ago now,
Mm-hmm.
probably 20 years ago. Um, but that's a special line, and you can't break it. Like 20-pound test, you just cannot break it. So I really feel like fluorocarbons was a big player for me over the years. Like most of the top 10, if we were all in a tournament where we're fishing grass or flipping trees or whatever, a lot of times I was the only one flipping. Like and I felt like I fluorocarbon, and I felt like I could go behind people. That's just the way I
Right.
felt, even if they were flipping fluorocarbon, I felt like they weren't. So it just gave me the confidence. But that's a big thing. So most of the time I'm a 7-11 guy. I like the longer rod, but I'm also, I love, the traditional flipping. And so that 11 foot, that 7-11, we're not allowed anything over 8. So they started making
Right.
7-11s just to make sure we were from butt to tip, we were legal. But there's lots of times when, you're pitching, casting around, doing the Jimmy Houston spinnerbait thing or whatever, and you just want to, flip. And when you got that 8-foot rod, you're literally with your arms extended, you're getting 25 feet away with no
Right.
splash. So that's why I like the longer rod. But for dock pitching, for like skipping and stuff, how the crappie fishermen use those little tiny rods and stuff like that. Shooting, they call it, I guess. But I still a little bit longer than most people, and I think like the Brian Thrifts and some of those guys use 7-footers and stuff. I don't feel like I get a good hookup ratio with a shorter rod. I like skipping with it, but
Right.
the lowest I go is a 7.4, the smallest rod, and usually a medium heavy in both the 7-11 and the 7.4. Back in the day when I started, when I was trained by some of the best flippers in PA, there was only the 7.6 retractables. I don't know if you remember those, but they
Oh, yeah.
they dropped down to 5 feet, and then when you pulled them out, it was 7.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the longest rods at the time, so that's what I cut my teeth on. So I still use a 7.6 sometimes, but for pitching and skipping and stuff like that, it's usually a 7.4, and then for flipping big stuff, whether we're in Florida or up in New York somewhere, in Oneida or Cayuga or whatever, it's a 7-11.
Yeah.
They're real, fast speed reel. I think everybody knows that, but you always always need that. 8:3 to 1 has been the gear ratio I've used my entire career, and that's another. There's a company called T-Zac that just replaced all my rods, sent me a bunch of stuff, and because I was having trouble breaking rods, so I've been using those for the last couple seasons. But I don't, rods, when you're flipping and stuff, everybody makes a good rod. Daiwa, all the big companies, even the Bass Pro Shop rods are awesome for saving money. To get into it, you can get all those sizes in a much cheaper rod. I remember, when I started, that's what I did. Just ordered a ton of those because they're, at the time 20 years ago, they were like $59 a piece, and you could get 40 of them and not break the bank. So
Right.
Yeah, for real.
Uh,
So here, do you want to ask? Did you say the question about or John Pate's question?
yeah, go ahead.
It says if you were going into the end of the day, first place, and you were tied, which angle would you not want, or which angler would you not want to face in a fish off?
in our format,
Yeah.
well, have you have you looked at our field? Come on, John. Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah,
That's a good
that's
question.
A bunch of them.
it's a stout field.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna have to say Wheeler, but at the same time, when it's so stacked, that's the guy you want to beat, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know how to answer that, but they're all good. But we obviously you don't want Wheeler tracking you down. I've been over the last 6 years or whatever. I've been, ahead of him at times and watching him get mad because I'm ahead of him, and it's not a good thing.
No,
So,
no. So next week, we have Wesley Strader coming on, and I have a question. If you could ask Wesley one question, what question would you ask him?
what happened to you when you were a baby? What happened, man? I don't
That's
know.
that Spring City.
Yeah. He was down there in Ocala, wasn't he? I think he was in
He
maybe a
was.
different
Yeah.
group. So I didn't get I saw him at the meeting for a minute, but we go way, way back, with our kids, and his wife and my wife were really good friends, and his family is really close, with his dad, Bud, and everything.
All right.
So we stayed down in that area a lot. Bud, matter of fact, Bud just texted me yesterday, hey, come on down to Tennessee. We got a bed for you. So I love those guys, but yeah, I'd ask him, what happened, man? What happened? Where'd all this come from? He's
And
a funny dude, man.
he,
We got to
he
spend the
is.
day in the boat. Gosh, I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was ultimate match fishing. I want to say it was even in Tennessee, maybe Chickamauga. But yeah, we spent the day in the boat together, and it was just a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to ask him that and tell him that this was a question from you, and then we're going to ask him what happened to you.
What happened when you were a baby? Had to
Yeah.
be dropped. I mean, I was dropped on my head when I was a baby, so it
I
happened.
think we all was.
Yeah, no, I literally was.
Oh.
Yeah, that's going to be funny. Because I guarantee you, he is definitely not going to expect that question.
Yeah.
He might
yeah.
from me. I wouldn't want to know what he'd ask me though in return. That's good. I'm on first.
Right. So so we've had you on right at an hour, and so we have one final question that we ask everybody that comes on. And Happy, you want to ask it, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. First, Dave, I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. I've really enjoyed listening to you and being able to pick your brain and gain some knowledge from you. And I wish you nothing but the best, and just keep grinding it out there, brother. I mean, God's going to lead you and He's going to guide you. So, just be that tool that you were and that you continue or that you are, and I really do appreciate you coming on the podcast. But without further ado, if if there was one person that you could fish on the boat with, whether they're here currently or not, who would that person be, and why would you want them on the boat?
Oh man, that's a tough one because you can't just pick one person. And I feel like like the things the first things that come to my mind isn't the answer I want to give you. Like my gramps who passed away a few years ago, and I just loved getting the opportunity to take him out.
Mm.
And there's so many pros, like old time. Does everyone answer this question, or does anyone?
Everyone.
Man.
There's no
I mean,
wrong answer. There's no wrong
And
answer.
for the most part, it is always either grandparents that have passed.
Yeah,
or
so I
that,
don't want to say the same
parents.
thing.
Right.
I'd like to spend a day on the boat with you guys. Why don't you guys do this on the water
What?
instead? If you're going to act like we're just sitting on the deck, why aren't we doing it?
Yeah. Hey, Pappy, I need you to get the Starlink, and we can
Get that
go
working.
out.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
call Elon. Call Elon.
Yeah. Right.
That's right.
So I would suck. I fished with Wheeler. I wanted to see how his brain worked. My wife's she's over there throwing names at me. Yeah, I agree. That was in my brain. But Wheeler just came up and fished with me for lake trout. Have you guys ever done that?
Mm-mm.
Dude, I'm talking aside from ice fishing. Have you ever done that?
We're from the South, and we do not believe in anything that has to do with ice.
Well, you're crazy. You'd be looking for property up here. But besides ice fishing, I would say, that you got an open invitation anytime you want to come. Lake trout, look it up. It's like you can see videos of us catching them. It's crazy. Okay, I'm trying not to get off track. My wife threw something at me that I've been thinking about since, and it would probably be It would probably be Glenn Brown. When he passed, it was way too soon. He was getting ready to do big things. He won a bunch of tournaments. He was always in contention, taught me how to fish in Florida. I didn't remember a dang thing he showed me on Orange Lake. Not a thing. Like, I didn't even recognize the boat ramp, but I knew we'd been there a bunch. But his deal was he taught me how to fish in Florida, and then I ended up loving to go there because I figured out, with his help, how to do it. So getting a day back with him, because what happened to him happened so fast. I was supposed to go down there and see him before that happened, and it didn't work out that last year. So that would be like special. And there's some, you get to that age where in your 50s where friends that start passing away. It's just crazy. I've lost three of my best friends in the last 5 or 6 years. So getting to spend a day in a boat with any of them, and I feel guilty not saying Gramps, my son, stuff like that, my dad, but I figure everybody else says that, so I'd say Glenn, man. I'd love to. We just had so much fun. I got pictures of him that I've never shared. Just crazy fun.
I do have another quick question, and this is just kind of just popped into my mind. If Aaron Martin was still around,
So that's what she said. That was the other one.
yeah,
Just super close friend of mine. So
yeah. Well, do you think? I mean, the forward-facing sonar and the finesse would have just fit right into his wheelhouse. Do you think that he would have just took off with it, kind of, and been like what everybody sees Wheeler as? Do you think that would have?
I do. And I don't think anybody could deny that.
Right.
It's I feel like we were just on the start of that when he passed, weren't we? Like it was.
Yeah, it's just not. It was getting all right. It was.
Yeah, it was there. Because he was. I feel like he was catching them. The last quality time that I spent with him was at a northern tournament. Oh gosh, where were we? We always camped next to each other. Him and Leslie were camping, and he was doing like a jig head minnow type of thing. So I feel like it might be forward facing sonar, but yeah, he would be leading that. He'd be leading that charge. I feel like that's possible that Drew and them would have been looking up to him, and he'd be trend setting like he always did throughout his whole career.
Yeah.
Figuring out different ways to catch them, and he was a tinkerer like me. We were the last ones at the parking lot, last ones out there in the middle of the night. So it was always somebody to talk to. Way early in my career, I remember, sitting under the light with all the bugs and mosquitoes, and everybody else is sleeping, and we're out there just tinkering. Just that's what we did.
Yeah.
Missed him a ton. Miss him.
Yeah. And that's one thing, like, I have thought over the years as forward facing has kind of developed and has gotten as big as what it is, and just to think of what he would have done with it would have been. I think you're right. He would have just blown people out of the water. That just how his mind worked was phenomenal. Just to watch him fish.
Yep.
So. But can you tell us real quick, if people that are wanting to follow you, how can they follow you and keep track of what you're doing?
We're I'll tell you what we're doing, and we're the good thing is my daughter, how old is Macy? 19. She's home for spring break. She's her first year in college. And
awesome.
She's home for summer break, and she fixed my Facebook. So when I had COVID really bad, and all I cared about was living. Like, I thought I was going to die like 2 or 3 times. My Facebook and Instagram got hacked during that, and I did not care at all. And I passed the deadline for the scammers to like pay the money. They wanted $7,000 and to get my account back, and I'm telling you, I didn't care. I just wanted to breathe again. So they took all that away. 55,000 followers on both platforms, and And it cost me a lot. I spent a little bit of money trying to get that stuff back, but I'm getting sidetracked. But it cost me a lot. It cost you sponsors because that's the main thing is, we can't
Right.
with 7 tournaments a year plus championship and an extra sprinkle here and there like heavy hitters. You have to keep up with that kind of stuff. So thankfully I lost Instagram, but we got Facebook back, and I paid people, and my 19-year-old daughter figured it out in about 15 minutes. So you can follow me there, Dave Lefebre, on Facebook. I started Twitter since I lost those, or not Twitter, TikTok, because I lost those two, and I figured instead of starting over, it was just so disgusting to me that I just went to TikTok and started a channel. So we got, I think, 10,000 followers over there, and then what we're doing now is called the 814 Grounds, and 814 is just our area code here up in Erie, and it's just a place where all the things that we love. I've always wanted to just be home and spend time with my family and my wife, and she loves restaurants. She grew up in the restaurant business, started working there when she was younger, and we toyed around. We talked about it, way back before we even started fishing. It was potential, as income at some point. So that's what we're doing. She's doing that. We have a friend that's doing the coffee side of it, so a coffee house, cafe, and then it's going to cater to fishermen, cater to things that are important to me that I don't get to do as much as I'd like veterans and community and disabled and things like that, some extra things. So we're going to tie into the community. Of course, and I have a TV show up here called Erie Extreme, so you can follow that as well. It's called Dave Lefebre, Erie Extreme with Dave Lefebre on YouTube. All the videos are up there. It's not for you guys, it's for your moms. It's like our demographic is like 65 to 75-year-old women. So we fail miserably sometimes. We don't catch any fish. I think we're the first fishing show that never caught a fish on a whole show. So, but we just get real and do different stuff because Erie's just a freaking awesome place to live.
Yeah.
There's so much to do, so much to highlight. So we have that show, and this new building and property that we just bought. It's just going to be like a hub for that, for the restaurant, for fishermen, and
That's
for
awesome.
the music. I love music still. Coming full circle. We got a band called the Band 814, and that'll be a music venue as well, where we can draw people to us instead of traveling so much playing, because I'm getting too old for that.
That is awesome. Now, what is your advice? I've got a net man that he kind of fails me from time to time, Dave, and I'm not saying anybody, but he might be down below me.
I see him. I see him.
So,
He knows.
what is your advice to be able to help him become a professional net man? I mean, right now he's just at
Bigger
the
scissors. Bigger scissors is what is the best advice ever. Or a sharp knife.
Yeah, I might run up there and just, instead of netting a fish, I might just push him in.
Sure.
Well, hey,
He's thought about it. I know. He has thought about it. I tell you.
I had to worse
But-
net man too. You got to swing him, man. Just swing him.
Yeah.
Boat flip.
Yeah. So, but Dave, man, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us and just chit chatting with us, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. We hope that whatever is coming up with you for the in your future, we hope that the good Lord just keeps on blessing you. And it was an honor to be able to have you come on. And so, but guys, I did put his social media links and stuff in the description. So if you can just go click on that and tell Dave that you've seen him on the Deck Talk podcast, we would appreciate it. And make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and follow. And but guys, we're going to have Wesley Strader on, and stay tuned for that, because we have one question that we're going to ask him what happened to him when he was a baby. So we're going to, but we're going to get off here. And but everybody remember, God loves you as if you're the only person in this world to love. And we will see you out on the water, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, bro.
See.